What's up, fantasy managers? Welcome back to another episode of the First Pitch Podcast brought to you by PitcherList.com. My name is Jake Crumpler, and as always, I'll be your host for this episode of the First Pitch Podcast. You can follow me at Jake Crumpler on Twitter and can find all of my work at crumplerbaseball.com. Let's dive into everything baseball related from Monday, March 17th, obviously St. Patrick's Day. That's why I'm wearing my only Ireland jacket, which I guess everybody has one of those with, obviously. So let's start it off, as always, with the transactions, injuries, news, and notes from around the league. We don't really have a lot of official IL placements other than for the Cubs and Dodgers, who will be beginning their season in just a couple hours shortly here on the West Coast, actually in Japan. So let's start with the injuries starting off with Paul Goldschmidt, the first baseman for the Yankees. He left the game with a sore back, though there are zero concerns about his preparedness for opening day. Though if he is set to miss some time, we could see Ben Rice and Dominic Smith share some time at first base, or we could possibly see Cody Bellinger shift in from the outfield, though it doesn't seem like we're going to need to worry ourselves with those concerns for now. Ben Rice, though, is sort of pretty interesting. I'm glad I had a chance to bring him up. He's been leading off and playing DH for the Yankees a lot. And if Goldschmidt is dealing with injuries, and as a guy who's a right-handed batter and much better against lefties, you could see Ben Rice getting more at-bats than you would expect. And as a left-handed hitter in Yankee Stadium, there's plenty of opportunity for some home runs there for Ben Rice. In other Yankees news, Clark Schmidt is still having some problems with his shoulder. He's feeling some soreness there, and there's lots of attention being paid to it. He threw a bullpen session, and there was something like 5 or 6 big names there watching it, trying to determine what they're going to do with him. If Clark Schmidt is going to begin the season on the IL because of this shoulder issue, we could see Carlos Carrasco or Brent Hedrick take over in the rotation. I'm sort of shaky on the Hedrick stuff. I don't know much about him, and he pitched today in spring training on Monday, and he did not perform well. Carrasco also is a veteran, so I would see the Yankees siding more so with the veteran, though there is something to be said about Carrasco's ability at his age. So we'll see where they go with that. Fingers crossed Clark Schmidt is okay moving forward. Sticking in the AL East and discussing other injured pitchers, starting pitcher Alek Manoah continues to recover from the UCL internal brace surgery he underwent in mid-June of last year. He will begin the season on the 60-day IL, but he is continuing to throw 2 bullpens a week for the next 4 weeks. That's Alek Manoah. I would not expect him to return within 12 months from the surgery, which would be around mid-June of this year. But within a few months of that, I think is a possibility. So we could see Alek Manoah return by the end of this year, though I would put that at a pretty low possibility, especially if the Blue Jays are not competing. There is no real reason for them to be pushing Alek Manoah back from this pretty invasive surgery. That being said, it is just the internal brace surgery, so you can't really put him on the same timeline as you would for somebody undergoing Tommy John surgery. So there is a possibility we do see Manoah back earlier. We'll see. That's still up in the air. It's still not going to be until the summer. It's probably won't be until after the All-Star break for Alek Manoah. Outfielder Jung-Hoo Lee underwent an MRI on his back as he's dealing with mid-back tightness. He is set to be the Giants' opening day center fielder after dealing with a lot of injuries last year that kept him out for basically half the year, but he did show some exciting potential as a power speed guy, especially batting at the top of the lineup for the Giants, which is a pretty underrated lineup in my opinion. And I don't think that's just me being a fan of the Giants saying that. If Jung-Hoo Lee is forced to start the season on the IL, we could see Luis Matos shift into a full-time role in center field. That could be pretty interesting. He's got some good contact skills and has been continuing to showcase more and more power at the plate. That's Luis Matos. We could also see Grant McCray get called up if Lee is forced to start the season on the IL. He showed the ability to play a legit center field for the Giants last year, so that was pretty cool. And I like the potential he showed. He may just be a guy that is totally BABIP fueled at the plate because he's really fast and sometimes hits the ball on the ground, but I don't know if he's going to be a big fantasy guy. However, his glove does give him a leg up over Matos at being the everyday center fielder. If they do feel like without Lee, they need somebody that's capable of being a really good defender in center field, that would be McCray over Matos. Next, we have Max Kepler, who's dealing with a bruised lower back. And right now there's no timeline for his return, which is very concerning, especially because the Phillies are dealing with Johan Rojas nursing a shoulder injury. So that's a lot of injuries to the outfield, especially considering you got Kyle Schwarber at DH and Bryce Harper at first base. So your outfielder options are, dwindling. Right now, it looks like Cody Clemens could fill in for Max Kepler, though I'd likely expect him to platoon with Edmundo Sosa. Right now, Sosa is lined up to platoon with Bryson Stott at second base, though I think they would be fine letting Stott play every day if it meant that Sousa was platooning at another position with a greater need. So we could see that in the corner outfield with Cody Clemens and Edmundo Sosa platooning if Kepler is forced to begin the season on the IL. And our last injury is involving second baseman Bryce Terang of the Brewers. He's dealing with shoulder fatigue, though he is not at risk of missing opening day. However, the shoulder fatigue is concerning enough for the team that he will not take over as the team's shortstop for the season. So you can expect Joey Ortiz to shift over to shortstop and gain shortstop eligibility throughout the season. He should just be third base in most leagues, but gaining that extra shortstop eligibility will be really cool because then he could play him at corner infield and middle infield. So that's Joey Ortiz shifting to shortstop with Bryce Terang staying at second base. And in terms of news, outside of injuries, the Cubs and Dodgers finalized their Tokyo Series roster. The most notable things on the Cubs side was Matt Shaw made the team. He is one of their top prospects, expected to be their third baseman moving forward. So that's pretty exciting. It's always great when top prospects make the opening day roster. And then on the Dodgers side, really most notably, they just placed a ton of guys on the IL, all pitchers: Michael Kopech, Tony Gonsolin, Brusdar Graterol, Evan Phillips, Michael Grove, Edgardo Henriquez, Kyle Hurt, Clayton Kershaw, and Emmett Sheehan. The only one that's not surprising outside of Clayton Kershaw is Kyle Hurt. So that's the news and notes from around the league on Monday. So let's move over and look at the notable performances from the spring training games we had on tap on Monday. We'll start it off with their hitters. And the first one I wanted to point out was Jacob Wilson. He's the shortstop for the A's, and he went 2 for 3 with 2 runs, a pair of homers, and 5 runs batted in. That is, generally nothing crazy, especially in spring training. But for me, what has been most notable is that Wilson is now up to 4 homers in spring, which, small sample size and everything, but that's half as many homers as he's hit in the entirety of his professional career. He hit 8 homers throughout the minors over the past couple of years, hit none in the majors in his brief debut last year. So it's really interesting to see him implement some power into his game for a guy with such incredible contact skills. Jacob Wilson was a guy who struck out less than 10% of the time last year, did that throughout the minor leagues as well, showcased brilliant contact percentages as well. So this is a guy who's going to hit for a high batting average no matter what because of his ability to make contact and not strike out. And if he can incorporate some of this power and maybe some speed, because he's a young middle infielder, he should have a little bit of speed, he could really be a fantasy threat. He's going so late in drafts and probably didn't get drafted in most leagues because of his lack of roto production. He's not really a guy for standard leagues. I love him in points leagues because he doesn't strike out at all. But in roto leagues, you're not getting any home runs. He's playing for the A's. He's going to bat ninth. He's not getting a lot of runs and RBI, but the power he's been showcasing is somewhat exciting, especially if that can carry over into the minor league ballpark the A's will be playing in. So that's Jacob Wilson showcasing some power in the minor leagues to go along with his incredible contact skills. Next, we have catcher Joey Bart of the Pirates, who went 2 for 2 with a pair of runs, a home run, an RBI, and a walk. He's now batting .357 with a trio of homers and an 1136 OPS this spring, which is really cool. Obviously, as a Giants fan, it's tough to see Joey Bart go off to another team and find the success we waited so long for him to have as the number 2 pick. That draft is really rough with Casey Mize on top and Joey Bart going 2. Neither one of them has completely panned out, but it looks like they're sort of getting their footing. Mize is figuring things out with the Tigers, and Bart finally doing his thing with the Pirates. We saw it in the second half last year, but with so much competition in Pittsburgh for that backstop role, it was sort of uncertain if Bart would be the go-to guy moving forward. You got Andy Rodriguez, you got Henry Davis, a former first-round pick, another high draft pick as well. So there's lots of competition there for Joey Bart, but I think he's solidified himself as the team's everyday catcher with the performance he's had this spring, especially with both Davis and Rodriguez not doing much to make a case for themselves. So that's Joey Bart, who should be, I feel like he could have some impact in fantasy this year as an offensive focused catcher. And the last notable hitter we'll touch on is shortstop Bo Bichette, who went 2 for 2 with a pair of runs, a home run, 2 runs batted in, and a walk. He's batting .359 with 3 homers and a 1,062 OPS this spring. And I love to see him raking again this year, not only because I drafted him in my home league, but also because he struggled so much last year. 71 WRC plus across 81 games for Bo Bichette. Obviously, he dealt with the calf injuries earlier in the season and the finger injuries later in the season. And he underwent surgery this offseason to address the finger injury, but it does not seem to be a lingering issue as Bo Bichette is tearing the cover off the ball this spring. Super awesome to see. I think we can expect him to get back on track. He was such a consistent hitter for the first few years of his career that the sudden drop-off is not something we should expect to continue. So that's Bo Bichette looking for a big bounce back this season. Now let's check out some of the notable starting pitching performances from Monday. We'll start off by checking in on my matchup of the day. I mentioned Paul Skeens and Joe Ryan yesterday as a pitching matchup I was excited to watch. Paul Skeens went 4 2/3 innings, allowing 5 hits and 1 earned run. He walked 3 while striking out 7. The dude induced 17 whiffs with 41% CSW in less than 5 innings of work. It was really just all four-seamer. He went 52% four-seamers, and he induced 10 whiffs and 36% CSW with the pitch. That's what you're going to be seeing a lot from Paul Skeens this year. Obviously, he's got a splinker. He's got some breaking pitches, but he can really just go in and dominate just about any lineup with that fastball. It is absolutely unhittable. So it was dope to see him go in there, throw 100 miles per hour, get a bunch of strikeouts, and the confidence with Paul Skeens should not be waning at all. And then on the other side, we had Joe Ryan. I was interested to see him have some success, and it was mixed results here. 4 innings, 3 hits, 3 earned runs. He walked 1 while striking out 4. Ryan induced just 6 whiffs, but he did get 35% CSW as he was able to steal some strikes. He was also all four-seamers, 55% four-seamers in this one. Just 5 whiffs, but he did get 40% CSW as he caught a lot of batters looking. However, big concern here with Joe Ryan. He was down 2.5 miles per hour across all of his pitches and more so on some of the other ones. And I checked back on Skeens to see if that was just a weird StatCast issue in a spring training ballpark thing, but it was not. Skeens was down almost a mile per hour on his fastball, but I can attribute that to him holding things back here in spring training. But with Joe Ryan being that far down, especially this deep into spring training, I'm a little bit concerned. We're only honestly, a week and a half away from real opening day, and Joe Ryan is probably expected to be in that first turn through the rotation, at least one of the top 3 guys there. So if he's not ready, that's going to be pretty concerning, especially since the Twins just set their rotation yesterday. So the fact that they didn't see or have any concerns with Joe Ryan when they announced that suggests that maybe this is a new injury that's popping up. So definitely keep an eye on Joe Ryan, down 2.5 miles per hour or more on all of his pitches yesterday. And the last starting pitching matchup, or at least starting pitching performance I'd like to make note of, is Spencer Strider. I think everybody was talking about this one. He made his spring debut. It was long awaited because he underwent surgery last year, missed the entire season, and he did not disappoint, tossing 2 2/3 perfect innings while striking out 6. Absolutely incredible from Strider. I think he only allowed 2 balls in play, and he was really dominant. There was no StatCast, but all the reports I heard was that Strider was absolutely unhittable. Once again, reports suggest that the timeline keeps moving up for him. Earlier reports were that he was going to be back sometime in May. Then we had a late April diagnosis. Now it's looking like we could see Spencer Strider in mid-April making his debut this year. That's really early. And the people who had the, confidence and ability to go draft him in their drafts, they made a great decision because you're only missing a few weeks with him, and he's going to be right back. And it looks like he's going to not miss a beat in terms of his performance on the field. So that's Spencer Strider. Now let's look forward to March 18th. That's a Tuesday, as we have our first game of the season. Make sure to set your alarm clocks, especially on the West Coast, as the game starts at 3 a.m. Pacific time, 6 a.m. Eastern time. Super pumped for the first game of the season in Tokyo as the Dodgers take on the Cubs. Let's take a look at the matchup. Obviously, on the mound, we've known the starting pitching matchup for a while. A pair of Japanese starters. I couldn't get better than this. I think they might have planned this. Yoshinobu Yamamoto versus Shota Imanaga of the Cubs. Should be super exciting. Imanaga will throw the first pitch of the season. That's also dope. He's also on my home team. So if you're trying to follow me and get the same guys that I'm drafting, Imanaga and Bichette were 2 guys that I got on my home team. And Imanaga was some guy that I've got in a lot of leagues, and so I'm really excited to see him out there right away so I can really start to get a return on my quote-unquote investment this early in the season. I am not going to be able to stay up that early to go and watch that game because not only am I recording this podcast, but, I got work tomorrow. So unfortunately, I will be one of the probably many majority of people that are going to be watching this game after it happens, but really excited because both of these pitchers had a lot of success in the past, especially in Japan. And I'm really excited to see what they do in their home country, pitching in front of all of the fans that will be excited to see them back in their home country. Now let's look at the lineups. I'm excited to see that they are already out so we can actually get a little bit of analysis on the first lineups of the regular season. We'll start by looking at the Dodgers, the away team. They will lead off Ohtani at DH. No surprises there. Tommy Edman will bat second and play second as well. That's super interesting in terms of his fantasy value because I think there were questions around Edman's playing time, where was he going to play, if he was going to get enough opportunities. But batting second in between Ohtani and the number 3 batter, first baseman Freddie Freeman, there is so much opportunity there for run production, either scoring runs or batting Ohtani in. And if Edman can be even a semblance of what he was in the playoffs last year, I mean, the people who were wily enough to draft him super late in their drafts, they're getting a great return on their investment. Obviously, I mentioned Freddie Freeman batting third, and batting fourth, we have in right field, Teoscar Hernandez. No surprise. At catcher, Will Smith batting fifth. I think we knew that one as well. There were some concerns about his health, but he is ready. In left field, we got Teoscar Hernandez. And at third base, that's Teoscar Hernandez. We got two Hernandez. I'm confusing myself. Teoscar Hernandez is in there as they'll be taking on a lefty. So we can look at this lineup and suggest this is the lineup the Dodgers will be using against southpaws moving forward. Against righties, you can expect Michael Conforto in left field. Batting seventh at third base, you have Max Muncy. At shortstop, batting eighth, you have Miguel Rojas. And that might be a little bit surprising to some people, but as mentioned on yesterday's podcast, Mookie Betts is dealing with an illness and will miss the entirety of the Tokyo series, though he should be the starting shortstop on real opening day. And then batting ninth, we have center fielder Andy Pages. There could be a little platooning there, though there's no natural platoon partner for Pages in center. So he's likely to get every day at bats there. And if you really think about it, he's batting ninth, which is technically in front of Ohtani, Edman, Freddie Freeman, Teoscar Hernandez. And, Mookie Betts is probably going to jump up and move Edman down in the lineup. That probably makes sense why Edman's batting second here. But nonetheless, Andy Pages is due for a lot of runs batting in front of those guys, despite batting at the bottom of the order. So now let's look at the Cubs lineup. Leading off, we have left fielder Ian Happ. At DH, we got Seiya Suzuki. Batting third, right fielder Kyle Tucker. Batting fourth, we have first baseman Michael Busch, who is likely to platoon with Justin Turner, who will get his opportunities against lefties. Batting fifth, I love this, third baseman Matt Shaw in his first opportunity. It will be his major league debut. And batting fifth, that's super cool because he's clearly trusted as a legitimate bat in this lineup, getting right into the middle of the lineup. So you shouldn't have any concerns about how the Cubs are feeling about him, whether or not he's going to continue to get playing time and whether or not he's going to have opportunities to drive in runs, because clearly he will be batting fifth in this lineup. Batting sixth, we have shortstop Dansby Swanson, seventh center fielder Pete Crow Armstrong, eighth catcher Miguel Amaya, and ninth second baseman John Birdie. That one surprised me a lot, and I was trying to rack my brain why they got stuck with John Birdie at second base, and then I remembered Nico Horner is dealing with an injury there. He should be back probably in May, though I haven't done enough research to give a firm timeline on Nico Horner. Though right now, John Birdie, second baseman for the Cubs, a little bit surprising. But that's it. Those are the lineups for opening day. Super pumped. Make sure you set your lineups again, or set your lineups and set your alarms, because you're going to get caught off guard if you try to wake up, set your lineup for that game, and it's already over. And in NFBC leagues especially, the lineups are set for the whole week. So going into the first weekend of the regular season, those lineups are set as well. So definitely get everything ironed out right now, because you are setting your lineup for a whole week of games. It's the 2 games in Tokyo, and then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You're locking yourself in for all of that for the following week as well. So make sure you got everything in order tonight, or technically this morning if you're up real early on the East Coast. before the regular season gets underway. I am super pumped, but that'll do it for this episode of the First Pitch Podcast. Make sure to head on over to pitcherlist.com to check out all of the great articles and features we have on the site. Sign up for PL Plus or PL Pro to gain access to the Discord to interact with and support the Pitcher List staff. You can follow me on Twitter at Jake Crumpler. Tune in live on YouTube tomorrow and every day for a new installment of the podcast. And make sure to enjoy the day as we are blessed with another day of baseball.